My name's John Coleman, and I'm speaking to Peter Perkins,
John.
who's going to talk a bit about his experiences as a militant in the RTBU, and he's currently just been elected to what position, Peter?
It's a very long title, John. It's Assistant National Secretary Rail Operations. Well, basically, you're supposed to head up the rail division nationally, but you're answerable to the secretary of the national division. So far, I haven't been directed to do anything, so I can only use my own devices and act locally and so forth.
Yeah, and you've recently just attended a national conference of the National Union, and what efforts did you make to try and bring some policy suggestions to the national conference, and how successful were those efforts?
Yeah, I actually presented three things as the head of the rail division. I was able to get up and raise three issues. One of the big things that's happening is this insecure work at the moment. Part-time workers are increasingly coming onto the rail network, and so I outlined some of the trends in part-time work and some of the ways that we should be tackling those things. We should be converting those people to full-timers as soon as possible, and we should be also inserting limits clauses on how many part-time workers should be entering the workforce as compared to the number of full-time workers. I think that was received quite well. Of course, there was a slight alteration that some people may want to work part-time. In that case, it'd have to be a voluntary decision, but where possible, we'd like to see people converted into full-time jobs, and that part-time workers not be used as a wedge to cut wages and conditions of full-time workers, which is currently happening. I think that in New South Wales, and I've heard it from other states as well, that governments would prefer a part-time workforce where workers work split shifts in both each peak of the day, and that they actually go to work for 12 hours a day and work 4 hours when they first get there in the morning peak, and then wait another 3 or 4 hours and then come back on the afternoon shift. I think one of the issues that are currently being raised in the current enterprise agreement is that they don't want to pay penalties for that period within the same day. If a person comes back in the same day, that penalties are not cumulative for that second period, and that's a way that they'll get around both employing more staff and reducing wages of almost everyone. Now, the second issue I raised was the one about asylum seekers, that unions have an obligation to come out and support asylum seekers. Traditionally, the rail unions were made up of migrants that came here both for economic reasons and also were seeking asylum after the Second World War. These were the pioneers that helped build the viable railways in all states around Australia. It was made up of a mainly migrant workforce who made the railways what it is today. And if the unions came out and made a statement that they still believe that an injury to one is an injury to all, and that they still support the value of migrant workers and also the human rights of asylum seekers, I think that would send a very big signal to the current workforce. But I don't think that this motion that I moved went down very well, and on one occasion I was asked why bring these issues to the national conference or the National Council. The other issue I raised was about the environmental movement, and that the union movement must embrace, especially the transport union, embrace the environmental movement. For no matter it doesn't matter how long they can stick their heads in the sand, the environmental movement will intersect in some case with the transport unions. Transport unions, as you know, secure the jobs of freight drivers that are carting fossil fuels all around the world, and we're not against people having jobs. But in places like Canada, Australia, Britain, Germany and the US, people are already tying themselves to rail lines to stop the cartage of fossil fuels. And you've seen the results of some of that in Canada, where the massive disasters caused by the cartage of fossil fuels. And not only that, the end product is that we all suffer. You have an obligation to humanity to stop an economy that's built on carbon fuels. That doesn't mean that we're against people working in the freight industry. It means that maybe that those people can be used to cart other goods which are currently carted by road. And it may need some training, retooling, whatever, but unions have to weigh up whether it is worth, in the long run, being part of this whole fossil fuel industry.
Okay, and well, the next question I wanted to ask you ties in with that. Even the National Council invited a Japanese trade union official to address the conference, and what was the reaction? You know, what did he have to say?
Yeah, I think that was one of the highlights. Of it was a very progressive address by the Japanese all trade union movement there, and I think they were whipping up support around the world. They've got a very neo-liberal conservative government in the Abe government there, and one of the big problems they have is that they're worried that militarisation and the attack on workers at the same time, and this is really hurting Japanese workers. The Abe government is being pressured by the imperialist US and Western countries to get involved in this dispute with China. The Japanese trade union movement pretty much is against the militarisation, because for Japanese workers this is a disaster.
Now, just moving on from there, now the present leadership of the New South Wales branch is what we're involved in. What's your proposals for the current EBA and just recently you put out a fair bit of information about what you'd like to see, and how do you think that's going at the moment with the trade union movement in general in the New South Wales?
All that information that I put forward has come from the members. I mean, it's not my idea. These are some of the concerns that members have. I mean, the New South Wales government's proposed that the agreement be split up into 5 different sections. At the moment we have one agreement that covers drivers, guards, maintenance workers, cleaners, station staff, and also the old CountryLink employees. Now the New South Wales government, under its divide and rule tactics, is going to divide that up into 5 separate agreements, one for each one of those. Now, some people are going to have more clout than others because of the strategic positions that they're placed in. The drivers and guards can, signallers, for instance, can stop trains quite easily. But if you're on a station or you're a cleaner, I think you have far less chance of militancy than you do because you have less effect on the system. You really can't bring the system to a halt. And if you did walk out over an issue, without the support of the other groups, from the drivers, guards, signals and so forth, from the train crew, then management is going to laugh and say, see you later. So you really have no bargaining power. Now, what we foresee, that if we get split up into 5 different sections and we bargain on 5 different entities, then really you might end up with the guards getting a 5% increase in great conditions, and some of the others, some of us that are on lower both lower wages and also on with less chance of affecting the system in some way, we could end up with a really watered down agreement, possibly wages cut, part-time work, all those sorts of things. So what we're proposing is that we have a combined entities agreement for 2014, so that we retain that strength, so that we don't lose any of the current conditions we have, and that we still have the power to add to those conditions. Maybe we can go, what I suggested was we go for a 5% pay rise. Some people were saying, oh, we can't go for a pay rise, we'll lose too much money. But when you look at what politicians are getting, what our managers are getting, I mean, some of our local managers are getting $195,000 a year. For first timers into the rail system, they have no experience. They're relying on us to actually get them through.
Yeah. And what do you see the future of work if there's part-time work, if the unions don't take up the such demands as lower working hours with no loss of pay and things like that? Do you see that as a way of countering the casualisation? Because the work available can be shared among fewer and fewer people, but on a full-time basis if we do have shorter working hours.
As long as we kept our 8-hour pay per day, or your current weekly rate of pay, that would be fine. But what management are intending to do is to make the work, casualise the workforce and make it part-time. So it is very insecure, and that they cut penalty rates and just use people for the hours that they're the peak hours. Really, if you take the example of Britain, 30% of the workforce there is part-time, and most of the part-time workers are looking for more work. They never have enough to live on. Even people that are part-time in the railways in Britain can't even afford to travel on the rail system because the ticketing is so dear, because part privatisation and so forth, and the poor wages. So you've got a 2 or 3 tier economy where you've got 30% of the workforce is part-time. The next part of the workforce is possibly part-time or full-time, not receiving enough money, and then you've got the middle class and upper class getting much more. So you've got this whole 2 or 3 tier economy. We don't want that here, and the thing is, not only we don't want it here, it is not necessary. I mean, we have the resources, we have the money and wherewithal to be able to pay out full-time jobs. I mean, it makes no sense economically to bring people to their knees. I mean,
well, Peter, what are the current union proposals in the EBA, Enterprise Bargaining Agreement, and how to fight it, and and response from the management, and what would you propose to actually enhance that?
So far, most of the proposals coming from the government have been very vague, except to say that they're saying that our conditions are outdated, that they date back to 1938 and all these sorts of things. But really, they want to reduce our conditions. They want to cut penalty rates and all those sorts of things, really anti-worker stuff that you would think would come from Tony Abbott and neoconservatives. So the union, on the other hand, probably hasn't gone far enough as far as the EBA goes. I think that before even talking about a negotiating position, there should have been mass meetings in the workplace. At the moment, they're up to the stage where the delegates have met and put through a log of claims. There was no mention of part-time or insecure work within that log of claims. I would have liked to have seen that included in the log of claims. the other thing is how there is only one way that they can succeed in this, and that is to make sure that the members understand and know and are prepared to fight when the time comes, because without an active membership, a Conservative government, even though a minority, has such power through legal recourse, through the law, through just through the ability to hire and fire, to enforce their conditions and not negotiate at all. But the proof now is going to be in the pudding whether the union does go out to the workplaces. Preferably they should have been out there before this. They should have been negotiating with them, not just with management, with members and get members to form this log of claim, not just the elected delegates. I think that's the point of difference between members' voice and the union, that all the decisions actually come from members, and that if we elect delegates every 2 or 3 years, that they actually decide what the agenda is going to be. I think that's the main bone of contention, and the difference between that. The problem being that if you don't involve the members from stage one, those members don't feel to be part of it, and someone else is making the decisions for them. That is the elected delegates. In some case, if the elected delegates don't go along with what the hierarchy within the union want, then they're cut out of it too. So the real democracy actually comes from the shop floor, and the only way of beating this government is to make sure those people in the shop floor, on the shop floor, are involved in the fight for their own conditions. Thanks, John.
Okay, thanks, Peter.